Small talk.
Who just said
All
the
right.
do small talk?
Welcome everyone for just a special show here. It's not necessarily like small talk ish, but that's what we're branding it as. We are doing a Moon Knight spoiler cast. We're just going to talk about episodes 1 and 2. I don't know how long this is going to go. It's pretty kind of fly by the seat of our pants. We don't have much planned just to other than to break down the couple of episodes. Toy Mafia, as always, the first in the chat. We got Took, Lane, good to have you guys. And I am joined by Dean the Dream. We got Sean,
What's up, guys?
Brenton, and then one of my hometown boys, Gabe. So, gentlemen, just to kind of kick things off, we'll start off kind of high level, just overall thoughts, and then we'll start to kind of break things down, if that sounds good by you guys. And then you guys in the chat, let us know what you guys think. So, Ekwan, we're doing the... God damn it, Ekwan. We're doing the Moon Knight spoiler cast. That's what we're talking about. So, we're talking about Moon Knight episodes 1 and 2 again. So,
Mephisto.
yeah, just going to kind of discuss Moon Knight as like a character. Obviously, I've said for a while that Moon Knight's one of my favorite Marvel characters, and actually it was Gabe who first kind of told me to look him up years ago. I think you were at that was like 2 apartments ago, Gabe. You're like, you like Batman, you should look up Marvel's Batman, and it was Moon Knight at the time, and right around that time Mezco came out with that figure, so
I like it how we gauge time by apartments.
yeah.
Like, yeah, that was 2 apartments ago.
I don't remember years at all. But, Dean, we'll start off with you. Overall, what's your high-level thoughts on the first 2 episodes?
Yeah, I'm really liking it so far. I know nothing about the character, literally zero. So it's a nice introduction. I don't feel lost at all. I don't feel confused. Which is saying a lot because it kind of chucks you into the middle of
Yeah.
this dude's life, because he already has problems with sleeping when you start the show. He like locks himself in his bed, so you're kind of like, what's going on? And then everything kind of starts falling into place very naturally, that I don't feel like I'm playing catch up or anything. I really like it. It's a lot. It feels more like a Netflix Marvel show than a Disney Plus show, which is nice. It's a lot, maybe a little darker. It's a little grittier. But like that classic funny Marvel MCU sense of humor. Like the thing with the suit where it's like, summon the suit, and he summons a fucking like badass
Tuxedo.
James Bond suit. And like, what the fuck are you wearing? He's like, she said a suit. That's what I thought of.
That's Psycho Colonel Sanders.
Yeah, yeah. So it's got the levity of of that lighter tone Marvel stuff, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I can't wait to see where it goes. So far, the accent bothered me at first because it's like, I know he's not British. Why didn't they just get a British guy? But like, very quickly did I even just forget about that. Like, he's such a solid actor that it doesn't bother. It just that initial like, well, he's not British, but it's like completely forgivable. Ethan Hawke, that's Ethan Hawke, right?
Yeah.
Super cool. He's almost like not a bad guy. You're like, it's actually kind of cool, but he's also a psychopath.
Yeah. I read I saw an Inverse article. I didn't read the whole thing, but they're like, Marvel, for whatever reason, is obsessed with trying to get you to sympathize or empathize with their villains. And
Yeah.
this guy isn't any different, which, not particularly, but he's obviously...
Yeah, and then in season 2, he kind of goes more into like why he's doing
Episode
what he's
2.
doing, and almost makes you feel bad for Moon Knight, the actual
Yeah.
Mark, I guess is his name.
Mark Spector, yeah.
yeah, like, oh shit, like this guy knows what Mark's going through. So like maybe he's on to something, but also like he's killing people. So you're like, well, I'm loving it. I really am. I really really like it. So that's my
Sean, what
take.
do you think so far?
So I'm partway through episode 2, and I'm really enjoying it. The music at the beginning is kind of what bought me in on episode 1. I was like, hey man, this is kind of like Guardians, playing the music, and then just kind of seeing the what Dean, did you say the guy's name, the long haired guy with the
Well, since or Ethan Hawke is I don't know his
right,
character's
yeah,
name.
so his character, right? Just kind of watching that whole thing, I was like, okay, so um I like how he's like into like the history. He's not just like some random guy who becomes Moon Knight. Like he has that Egyptian knowledge, I guess. And then just kind of how he jumps back and forth through things. There was that whole scene where he starts that battle in that city, and they're doing their little ritual and stuff like that, and how he's jumping in and out, and you're not really sure what's going on, but it's like it almost like something resets or something, or like he's only the Moon Knight character when he needs to be, kind of thing. And then
So
the
hold on,
coolest thing.
zoom out a little bit though. Like, what do you think about what's your feel on the first 2 episodes?
I like it. I think it's engaging. I think it's interesting. I like how they're kind of going through his, I guess, condition.
Yeah.
Not really sure what it is, but going in and out of it, you're not really sure what's present. So I think it's cool. I think it could be like a cool. It's a cool
So
start.
so this is weird because this is the only one of the few times I've watched a show where I have read a ton of the comics, so I know a lot about the character. Is it like, I know that we're doing a spoiler cast about the show or the episodes, but is it kind of spoilery if I tell stuff about him from the comics that it will probably get explained later on?
I
'Cause I don't know how far to go
I think
into
it depends, because if you're referencing some of the early material, well, then that's your fault for not knowing the early material. If it's something that's like the last several weeks of his book dropping, maybe that's more spoiler. But I don't think that they would be drawing from even the
Yeah.
second most recent series
I
that
don't
he
think
had,
it
which
is.
wasn't too long ago. But I think if you're pulling from, what was it, Werewolves, right?
Werewolf
What
by
his
Night.
first appearance was? Werewolves by Night, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that his first appearance, I think if you're going to anything that was Dark Reign, anything that was, I think just prior to that, I mean, those books are 15 to 20 years old.
So
Is that
go
your
for
buddy? Is that your buddy, Gabe?
God, Seth Wood sent him the link, and it was only a matter of time.
Brenton, what did you think overall?
I'm enjoying it a lot. Probably the only I only have a couple nitpicks that we'll probably get into, but as a whole, I'm enjoying seeing where it's going, and I'm okay with some of the changes they made from the source material to the MCU version of it. Like, I don't really have too many gripes there. I'm really excited to see more Moon Knight on screen, though, and I feel like it's coming. Like, I think it just took us these 2 episodes to get there. But
Yeah.
I think moving forward, it's going to be more Moon Knight heavy.
I hope so. I think that was Eddie's biggest complaint. Eddie and I had a little bit of back and forth in the chat talking about, because he has not enjoyed the show so far. He doesn't like kind of the wanting more on the Moon Knight thing. He's like, I wish they would just give us more of what we all want. And I'm like, well, yes and no. Like, at the same time, that's like what the character is a lot of times fighting with himself. And then
I
the other
think
50% is kind of him actually crime fighting. And he doesn't have a whole lot of people who keep up with him physically in a lot of the comics I've read. That's not a lot of the issue. A lot of his issues is fighting amongst himself, pretty much.
But also, like with the Disney Plus movie or TV shows that we have had thus far from like in game, it seems like character development is kind of where they're heading. Like they're introducing a lot of these new characters or a side of a new character that we've not seen before.
Yeah. So I kind of interrupted before Gabe could go. Gabe, what? I haven't talked about it a ton with you actually yet. We watched the first episode together, but I was sick, so I missed the second episode. So, what was your overall thoughts, Gabe?
I mean, I thought it was fantastic. It was just like obviously episode 1 with any of these, character introductory shows is going to start off kind of slow, but episode 2 really picked up, and you got to see more of the suit. Whereas end of episode 1, you could really see like you get to see the suit at the very end. You can see him throw a couple punches at that jackal, and you're like, dude, I want more. And that's why I wish it was just a movie. But at the same time, like these Disney Plus shows are also really good though, because they really can flesh out a character more, and when he eventually joins the bigger like MCU picture, and it does have that Marvel tinge to it, where it doesn't take itself so seriously, and there's funny things like in the second episode when Steven's like, oh, summon the suit, and he just summons that ridiculous like tuxedo with that mask. He's like, they're like, what the hell's that? He's like, yeah, Psycho Colonel Sanders. Like that was fantastic, and it was fun to actually see Steven as Moon Knight, or a Moon Knight, whatever that actually was, if you want to call it Moon Knight. And I just thought it was really good, and I think there's 6 episodes in total, I believe, so we still got 4 more episodes. I'm excited to see where it goes, and I'm more excited to see the other avatars of the other gods of the Aeneid, or whatever that pantheon is. So that would be really cool.
Yeah, and the bad guy, I believe, is Arthur Harrow. That's Ethan Hawke's character.
Very obscure character. He's like in like one issue, I think.
I was gonna say I've read quite a few of Moon Knight stuff, and I've never heard of that guy. So I watched like the new Rockstars video on YouTube, and apparently it's very obscure, and we haven't seen much there. But it'll be interesting to see all the different gods and stuff. But
and that's,
Brenton, what?
And that's another reason why I like Moon Knight too, is because it's like. He's like almost a C-lister. He's pretty unknown. Like he's a cool character, but I mean, you got the X-Men and Fantastic Four, all of Marvel's like big shots, and then you got the B team like Avengers, et cetera, like that. And then you have Moon Knight, who's a cool character, but just like pretty wild. Like people are like, what the hell's a Moon Knight? And that's another thing I really like about the show, is that they're really digging into like an obscure character and bringing them up to the mainstream. Kind of like what they did with Avengers. I would say they're arguably more popular now than like X-Men and all of them, just because of like how great like the Infinity Saga was.
Brenton, what was your gripe?
Well, the one thing is when characters kind of act inept, but things still go right for them to a degree. So like with a lot of the Stephen Grant stuff, where he's kind of, Khonshu called him, oh yeah, the idiot's back. And that's kind of how it was, but like he's still kind of surviving situations he shouldn't survive and that kind of stuff. And it also reminded me a lot, the infighting of Steven not giving control to Mark, like the Hulk in Infinity War, when, he wouldn't come out. Banner's like, come on, Hulk, get out here. And then he refuses to come out, and that reminded me a lot of that.
Yeah. I think one thing, that was kind of annoying. It's really small, but I watched it twice, and every time we watched it, someone said the same thing. Like right that part that you're talking about, Brenton, when he gets shot at, and everyone I watched it with, they're like, "Oh, good aim," because I feel like he should have at least gotten pegged from there.
They're like 20 feet away, and they're like, I can't hit shit, man. Sorry.
Aim.
Yeah, actually though.
But yeah, and for me, I think one of the biggest gripes, John kind of mentioned it too on the show a couple days ago, where the CGI was a little weak in certain areas. Like where in the first episode, when they're it's the car chase scene, when he's like in that ice cream van or whatever, and he crashes or he makes that log truck crash,
Oh yeah.
and then all of a sudden all the logs like come flying out. That's pretty weak CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah, considering now, I'm sure Star Wars takes precedent over most things over at Disney. But when you have shows like The Mandalorian, or even maybe, I think Boba Fett was actually kind of cheesy, but we know they could do really great CG. I mean, the Loki show looked really good. The what was the Scarlet Witch show? That one looked cheesy, but I think it was supposed to, right? They were supposed to be movie sets and
WandaVision,
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or yeah, WandaVision. Sorry, what did I say?
Scarlet Witch show.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
New name.
Yeah. Like we know they could do successful CGI.
But I wonder, like,
Convincing.
to go on the other side of that though, like I wonder if that's not something they're trying to play off, you know, because he might be dreaming, he may not really be dreaming, you know, things like that, just kind of the way he's jumping in and out, and then something like
I don't
that
know.
happens. I don't know.
That would be
could
that'd be
be.
pretty far fetched. I think that they just would rather put more work into the suit CGI than they would something like that, and so that's probably the biggest reason. In all honesty,
Yeah,
Well,
maybe
the
and
suit
this-
looks
later.
This is a big test though, you know. I think Moon Knight's the bigger test than any of these other characters that they've done so far. You know, I mean, even Kate Bishop has a connection to Hawkeye enough to where people are like, yeah, we want to see her. And a lot of these other characters like Loki came in before, Scarlet Witch came before, Vision, you know, even Daredevil has a huge following enough that people like, no, oh, that's Daredevil, you know. Moon Knight is pretty obscure, especially where he lies in Marvel Comics.
yeah, that's kind of what Gabe was saying too. Dean, what were you saying there?
Oh, I was saying that maybe they're saving the really good CGI for later episodes. Like they spent all their time over here. Sorry,
Yeah.
not so much at the beginning of the show.
Well, see, my thing is though, it's like at the end of the day, it's like this is a TV show, not a movie. It's a high budget TV show, but I mean, as long as it's not like as long as it's not like CW Supergirl, I think I'll be fine with it because I think it's good enough for what it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I think the suit is the big culprit for the budget because they decided to not use a real costume. So, Dylan, you know this, that, you know, Moon Knight has just a regular suit. What they did for the MCU is they changed that completely. He doesn't just fabricate it out of thin air. It's not a supernatural suit like it is in the MCU.
Yeah, it's one he has to change into.
But they made a
But
conscious decision to change that for the TV show.
Steven only dreams in potato 720p. That was my my old camera. Walton Chunky said I didn't want to see Kate Bishop. That show was super corny. Hawkeye had far more cringe than I would care to watch more. I like that show more than I thought I would. But yeah,
same.
the one thing I like about this show is so the one thing with Moon Knight that I've said before is he's a bloodier character. He's more of an anti-hero type thing, like a Punisher. Maybe not as violent as Punisher, but he doesn't hold back. Like in the new run, like this is like the ongoing one that I was always talk about. There's at one point where he's like fighting they're known as like Spider-Man's villains. They're the what are they called, like vermits or something like that? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Yeah, vermin. Sorry, vermits. What the hell am I talking about? And he pretty much just says, like, I'm not Spider-Man. I will kill all of you if I have to. So I like that in the first episode, I think, when they flashed away from him, where all of a sudden he had blood all over his hands. One thing that I was expecting is eventually that they would do kind of a blend. When they switched back to Mark Spector, all of a sudden we'd see a flash of a bunch of the scenes that we missed that he blanked out at when he switched, between
Like
the
how
two.
he gets to that spot.
Yeah, well, yeah, something like that. Like one, because we never really saw him switch to Mark or Moon Knight until the way end of episode 1, and in episode 2, I figured when we were gonna see the switch to Spectre, I was like, maybe we'll actually see that fight scene where he beats the shit out of all those people, kind of in that plaza area. But I guess not.
That reminds me, it's like that at the end of episode 1, they established though immediately that Moon Knight is a complete badass. Like that jackal was chasing him into the bathroom, and once he changed, you see that jackal trying to crawl out of the bathroom, and Moon Knight just pulling it back and then like beating it in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I think was. That's what I was saying. I think is kind of important to understand. For the most part, he doesn't struggle in fights a lot of times. It's literally struggling with himself. He doesn't. In some cases, he's fairly overpowered. I think he even fights the Avengers at some point. In the comics or the X-Men or something like that.
Yeah,
and
I remember hearing that.
Yeah, he's got like super, like pretty much powers from the gods, kind of like Thor essentially. But yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned that from this about the suit, Brenton. I did think about that, but it didn't really. I don't know, and to me, it didn't do something to where I was like, "Oh, I hate that," or it stood out. Like I didn't even think of it, even though, like you said, his suit is more of a actual thing he put on. Yeah, like Bob Dylan said, he's literally his own worst enemy. I love that about him. Yeah, he's imperfect. That's why I like Moon Knight.
Well, that's a Marvel character.
What?
I said that's a Marvel character. Like that's a hallmark of every Marvel character is that they have flaws, and those flaws sometimes hold them back.
That's
Yes,
why
and
Superman sucks so hard.
yes and no, but I think for the most part, a lot of things about the Marvel heroes we've seen so far, and Gabe hates this because Gabe loves MCU too, but is that to a certain extent, like they all are, yes, they're a little bit of flawed, but like they didn't dive into like Tony Stark as much as they could have, where he was like a raging alcoholic in the comics and stuff.
Right.
They barely did that in episode or the Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
but
demon
they-
in a bottle? Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
Demon in the Bottle.
They went a different route though with the whole Sokovia Accords. Like that's that whole Iron Man versus Captain America battle for Civil War was like
It's
Iron
completely
Man's-
different.
I mean, Iron Man created Ultron, so like all of his decisions ended up backfiring on the
Right.
team.
Yeah, but I feel like for the most part, like they all have similar personalities and like they are the superhero. Like especially like Captain America. In my mind, he's very similar to like Superman,
Oh,
where he's just supposed to be kind of that perfect boy all the way around. And yeah, that's the thing with Moon Knight. He's very complex, fighting himself and everything. But with the suit, going back to that, I didn't mind that at all. I don't mind that it's all CGI'd. It sucks, possibly for some of the like the figures that are coming out with it, but I don't think it matters a ton with what we've seen so far. So far, this is what we got. We got the Marvel Legends here. Give me 1 second. This is the Marvel Legends, and this is obviously like a CGI or a digital render, so it'll look close to this. If it comes out to half of this, I think that'll be pretty awesome. But what do you guys think about the suit overall?
I think it's pretty cool. I don't hate it. It's very, just from what I know from seeing him in like comics or drawings, his outfit is very boring, very vanilla. Just kind of, it's just like a white outfit.
Yeah.
So add
He's
some
literally called
depth
Moon
and
Knight, though.
dimension to it. Am I wrong? Is it cooler in the comics?
So sometimes he's got like this black shadow to him. That it's like more of a shadowy thing, but I've seen figures take that on. Like Marvel Legends has done it, Mezco's done it. So like here, you can kind of see he's got like the black shadow to his suit, and you'll see that sometimes where you'll see that kind of rendition of him a little bit in his suit. But overall, yes, Dean, you are right. He is very much white. To me personally, that's just like a pleasing look. Like in Destiny. Gabe knows
Shadow
that,
White.
but I always gravitated towards like black and white shaders, which is like the colors you can make your
Okay,
character.
what the fuck? I've been looking for someone to play Destiny with me forever.
I would play Destiny.
I hate
What the
Destiny.
hell?
I
Gabe
don't play that
is
game
an
ever.
Gabe
I'm
is
probably
an
like
addict.
three or four seasons behind, but right before I stopped when my son was born, we were doing pretty good.
Zach got it for the PC the other day, and I was like, dude, I'm there. So I downloaded it. He played with me once for like 10 minutes.
That's classic Zach, am I right?
Gabe, yeah, it's funny. 'Cause you're right.
Dylan, I like him. Can we get on more?
No shit, bro. He fit right in, bro.
Yeah, you gotta hit Gabe up. He'll Sherpa you. I'm volunteering him. He's pretty good. But anyways, yeah. So like, I always gravitate towards that for whatever reason. It's like a pleasing look to me, like the white, just kind of the white look. The one thing that I mentioned in the chat before, and I think I mentioned this on Small Talk last week, but there's not as much gold in the comics. Like that's never gold. I've never seen him with gold in any sort of like rendition of him. And so that to me was a little interesting and kind of it was the only reason I thought of it is because there is in the new comic there's a new oh god, Dean's dying. There's a new
Help! An animal's attacking him.
yeah, kind of bad guy, and it's this guy here, and he's supposed to be like the other fist of Khonshu, where he says something like along the lines of like you think the fist of Khonshu only has one fist or something, because that's it, kind of his nickname throughout the comics. I know they call him like the Avatar, and essentially it's like more like a possession type thing.
The foot of Khonshu.
Yeah, and that was the foot of Khonshu. I'm just kidding. But anyways, that guy, the other guy in those comics, he has a lot of gold around all over his suit, and so they obviously would have to try and change that up if they would ever bring him in. But like you said, Sean, that's like still an ongoing run right now, and this series, there's no way that's based off of this comic series by any means. So, but yeah, Brenton, what do you think overall of the suit?
Yeah, I like the suit. I like the idea of the bandages and very mummy-esque. You know, that fits in perfect with Egyptian lore. So I think they really nailed it with that suit. And I thought they did well with the Mr. Knight suit as well. You know, that thing looked like it walked right off the page. And I think even that was probably slightly more accurate to the source material than this traditional Moon Knight suit was.
Yeah, it didn't bother me. Gabe, have you chimed in about the suit at all?
I mean, I kind of agree how it comes off as like really mummy-esque, and I just think it's a really good look, especially like in episode 2, right at the bus when Mark takes over, when he's like, okay, I'll give you control just this once. Mark takes over, and he slowly turns around, eyes are glowing, and you see the wraps like coming up, and everything. And I think it's well represented in this new Legend series.
Yeah, it does look pretty good. If it comes out this good, I'll for sure be getting this. And then this one just went on pre-order.
Can I talk about it?
Oh yeah, you go, Sean. What do you think?
I feel like they needed some contrast in the Legends version. So maybe that's why it's a little bit more gold than it is. I kind of like that the darker grays that they're using. If it comes out like this, I'd be happy.
I was
I
talking
just
about the
feel-
suit overall. It's not really the figure I'm saying I have the problem with gold with. It's like the suit
I mean,
in general. With that
as much as I've seen from the suit is when he beats up the Jackal so far. I mean, just from that scene alone, like there's so much more I feel like they could have done with this. So I want to get it, and I probably will, but I want to see what some of these other companies are going to do with it.
Yeah, speaking of which, we got the Hot Toys one. This one looks amazing.
Yeah.
I will be getting one thing I didn't notice is how there's like I don't know if it's hieroglyphics or he said like what the symbols or language is in the show, and I can't remember what he called it, but in the inside of the cape there, we haven't seen that yet, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah, those same markings are down the pant legs. If you didn't notice either.
Yeah, that I noticed.
No.
But yeah, I didn't notice it inside the cape.
I
And
really
then
like
this
the
thing. What?
extra gold on that Hot Toys one. The extra, I like the little more gold on it, so it's not just pure white. I feel like it really brings out a lot more of the suit.
Yeah, it's probably good contrast, like what all you guys are saying. I feel like I'm in the minority of not liking the gold, but it'll grow on me. I don't hate it. Like I don't hate the suit. It's just what I was used to. So I was just being one of those comic book snobs. That's not how it is in comics. But
Nerd.
this thing, what the hell is this?
What is going on with his face?
That was that scene where he like pops his jaw back into place.
We have toys at home.
Yeah, no shit.
Toys at home.
His butthole. His face looks like a butthole, kind of.
He definitely looks more ghoulish here.
Yeah.
It's like his mask sucked all the air out. It's just tight against his face.
Yeah, someone put him in a vacuum sealer.
Yeah, so this is what we're looking at as the Diamond Select, or Marvel Select Diamond Moon Knight, which just went up, I think, this week for pre-order. It doesn't impress me a ton, but
That's a Moon Knight, but at Aldi. Is what
This
that-
looks like it's a classic Toy Biz like old school
off-brand.
figure.
Yeah, it does. Kind of look like.
It's right next to the fruit rounds at Aldi.
But yeah, overall, I've liked it. It's one of the few things too with the show is I won't talk about it a ton, and I'm sure some people have kind of pieced it together. But what he has is considered like an actual mental illness, and that's kind of what I'm talking about, Brenton. Where how many superheroes have an actual mental illness like that? I think it's just a cool way to
The
bring it
Joker.
to life. Well, I think technically the Joker is undiagnosed because they don't know what the hell he is besides being
All right,
like,
excluding Gotham.
yeah.
He's also not a hero, but
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, so that's
Little did
that's
we know
kind of-
he's actually the hero of the Batman series.
yeah.
that's kind of the one thing that I've always liked about him. But let's see, go through the chat here, see if there's anyone. Bob Dylan said the outfit is more white than a company softball tournament.
Nice.
Echo and I offered to play Destiny ages ago. Trials of Osiris OG player.
Nice.
Hell
Yeah,
yes.
I've played pretty much every expansion, I think, except the last two.
The newest one is the best expansion they probably come out with.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm waiting for them to like let us battle in the ships or something, you know? In their little loading scene ships. That's what I want. Like at
they
what point are we going to actually be able to fly to the moon, land, get back in and go fight in space and then go back to the tower?
That'd be sweet.
Didn't they kick that
You
to
should
the
look up
curb
Star Citizen, bro.
a while ago? Anyways, back to Moon Knight. So, yeah, I'm excited for where it'll take us overall. I think there's a lot to open up, but like Eddie said, he kind of mentioned about being worried about it being a little bit rushed. He's like, you only have like 6 to 8 episodes, and he said it felt drug out. So, while I don't think he's particularly wrong, I think it's just something that is, like someone in the chat mentioned it earlier, to where that's part of building a story and a background. Like we're building this character that, like Dean said, we are thrown in the middle of, where he's already established with all these things.
Did they
And-
mention where it falls in the MCU? Like in the actual show? Like I haven't read any article on it yet.
Gabe said
Yeah.
after Endgame, right, Gabe? That's what you
Yeah,
said.
it's after Endgame, but as of right now, it's standalone. That's not saying that it'll join future MCU projects, but as of right now, it's doing its own thing. And I'm sure Moon Knight will obviously, come into like with especially
Find
with
someone.
Blade, yeah, with Blade coming into the
Yeah.
picture. Like he will join it, but as of right now, it's not attached to the MCU. So that's why you're probably not
Right.
seeing any like callbacks
Easter
or
eggs
anything.
or
Like,
anything
they're not
like
like,
that. Yeah,
oh,
someone-
Moon Knight, where were you during Thanos and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Someone said it takes place before Iron Man.
Yeah,
Before
I
the
had
whole kickoff.
I had heard that too, but it doesn't seem like, I don't know, maybe it.
But he doesn't.
We
have a
don't get like
Razer
as of
Motorola
now we don't
phone,
get a
so-
year or a date.
True.
He does. I guess he does have a Razer Motorola. That phone
Well, like-
that he calls on in the
Yeah.
first.
I mean, that phone back in the day when you saw that, you're like, that
It
phone-
happened
that
right
phone
after
fucks.
Captain Marvel.
Brenton, what were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna agree with Gabe that it's supposed to be after Endgame. Because I guess CBR did an article about this, and they said that in the background on a bus, you can see that there's an acronym for the program they set up in Falcon and Winter Soldier for people that came back 5 years after the blip. So the people that returned, whatever that kind of reparation was, or to get those people back to normal lives. So it's definitely established a little bit there that, this is the blip happened. This is after that.
Yeah, I think so too.
It will be interesting to see how quickly it progresses with so short of a episode length. You know what I mean? Like, it does seem semi-drugged out, but like creating the storyline. But like when shit's about to hit the fan, it's like how quickly are they going to move through these episodes and how much are they going to jam pack in there?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I hope that I like that they keep sending little tidbits on who like Mark Spector was. I always liked the story of how he was essentially a mercenary, like left for dead out in the middle of Egypt, and Khonshu saved him, brought him back to life. And they pretty much allude to all of that in episode 2, just real quick throughout, like while they're trying to do a backstory on him without like making a huge story about it. So that makes me think that the rest of it doesn't need to be rushed, and I don't think it will be, because I think that they can just
And I haven't watched all of episode 2 yet, but have they talked about who the girl on the phone was? Was it Leia or Layla or something like that? She's like, Mark, where have you been? I've been calling you for months.
She's in episode 2, actually.
Oh, she is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why you said, "Oh, I'm partially through episode 2." I was like, "How are you partially through it?" It's like when I'm watching it, I was like, I might even rewatch it again.
Man,
right after.
my
Like,
week has
back.
been such a clusterfuck that I don't have
Yeah.
time to watch shit.
Well, spoiler.
Oh, no, hey,
They're-
I'm all down for it. I don't care about spoilers. That's
So
another
there's-
conversation.
There's also some kind of Easter eggs. I was watching that new Rockstar's video, and I didn't even notice this, but he has some friends that he relies very heavily on in the comics, specifically like the Lemire and Smallwood series, where a lot of it takes place like him trying to escape the insane, like an insane asylum. That's not the politically correct name for it, but like a psychiatric
State hospital.
yeah, we'll just say state hospital. He's trying to like escape it a lot of time throughout it all, and he uses friends of a lot of the guys, and one of his friends is, if you look at the credits, that guy who's up painted in all gold that he talks to.
Oh, yeah, I can't remember the
Crawly
name.
or something like that. Crawly, I think, is his name. And that's actually like a big player in the comics for the most part. So that was interesting. But
One
sorry,
thing I-
Brenton, were you saying something?
Oh, I thought you were going a different route with that, actually. With Frenchie. So he has a friend called Frenchie who was like a pilot and stuff for the moon copter. So there
Yep,
was like
he's
a
in it
moon
too.
copter. Yeah, they alluded to him when you were scrolling through all his phone messages and you saw all Layla forever. And then there was Duchamp. That's Frenchie's last name.
Yeah.
So we know he's at least in this world, but we don't know if we'll see him.
One thing I want to know is like who came first? Was it Mark Spector or Stephen Grant? Because I feel like it's Mark. Because I mean, he was. I'm obviously has some kind of military background. I mean, was Stephen created like later on for something like in his mind
Hey,
for a
Paul.
particular reason or anything like that? Or that's kind of what I want to see. Like, is Stephen more the secondary character, or is Mark more the secondary character? And did Mark get trapped in his own mind, and Stephen came out? Like, I don't know a lot about that particular illness that he does have, but like that's kind of what I'm really curious about, and I wonder if that'll come out in one of the next 4 episodes.
Yeah. And Dean, would you be mad if I said the illness that he has, like in the comics, that he has in the TV show?
No, that's fine.
So it used to be called like the multiple personality disorder. Now it's called like dissociative identity disorder.
Yeah.
And yeah, he just essentially has a bunch of like personalities between him.
Like
And
Deadpool?
I think what's that?
Like Deadpool. In the comics, Deadpool has like legit multiple personalities.
I think his is like more schizophrenia, where he has like auditory hallucinations.
Yeah, it's essentially like completely different people, and that's
Brenton,
in my
if you
opinion.
ever correct me on my show again, I'm just
I think that's also one of the I don't know if this is actually true, but it's how I immediately took it with the accent not being all the way there, the British accent. Is I'm like, oh, it's because he's actually not British. Like the actual human being that he is not British. That's just one of his personalities. So maybe he doesn't have a perfectly refined British personality at that point. But
Or maybe
there's
that's what
also-
he falls back on to like not give away his true personality. Like some Jason Bourne stuff.
It could be. And he also has a personality that we have not seen yet as well, because now technically we've seen all of them but one, because we've seen like Moon Knight, Mr. Knight, which is considered to be one in some comics, where that's where he's in the suit, even though in this one they kind of make it just a joke, like a different
Yeah.
look to him, which I don't mind either. I don't really care for that look of him, but thank you, Paul, by the way, so much. Love you, man. And the so far we've seen Stephen Grant, Mark Spector, and yes, Mark Spector in the comics is his most common personality overall, but the one that we haven't seen is, what is it, Jake Lockley, I think, is what it is.
Yeah, it's the cab driver.
Yeah.
Brent and I were talking about this earlier.
Yeah, he's the cab driver. The other thing is Mark Spector, I think, or it might be Stephen Grant actually. Yeah, it's Stephen Grant is actually like the Bruce Wayne personality too in the comics. He has like a shit ton of money. He's always like well dressed. He has like a wife, and he's always kind of pieced together pretty well. And that's where he gets a lot of his, like, everyone always makes fun of the moon copter, or like a lot of his other gears, because he's essentially rich in that one personality. And it's interesting, they made him pretty much just the guy who works at the museum. Not much there as far as like wealth is concerned or anything like that. But yeah, Jake Lockley's the other one that we have not seen yet. So I don't know if they'll even bring it in.
I think I read, like, I was reading, or it was a YouTube video or something like that, where they're probably gonna, where someone's like, and this makes a lot of sense too, like, oh, they're probably gonna avoid that, just to avoid the, Batman comparisons, if that makes sense. 'Cause, obviously that's kind of Bruce
Yeah.
Wayne stick, like, Playboy, and then like Playboy billionaire philanthropist, like, but you understand what I mean though, if that makes sense.
Yeah, right. And if the suit just like, it's part of the powers, it's not like a physical suit that he has to like piece together, it makes sense that he doesn't have to buy that stuff. So
Yeah, do you mind if we dive into that a little bit? Because I was reading some stuff about this with his personalities. Or if we don't want to spoil too much.
Literally
I think-
spoiler cast. Let's spoil away.
yeah, I'm fine with it.
All right. So yeah, I was reading that as to Gabe's question there. Mark is his primary personality, I guess, or identity. And I guess originally in the comics, he created Stephen Grant. He didn't always have the personality disorder. So it was kind of just him going undercover as like a high society type. And he created Stephen Grant, which was essentially like a Bruce Wayne. You know, that it was a copy of that so he could fight crime for more rich folks. And then he also created the Jake Lockley to fight crime with the less fortunate, I guess, or like the more street level. So that's where kind of those identities came from, or that was the origin of those. And then over time, it got changed into the actual personalities.
Yeah, and I do like that they're blending like Mr. Knight in with Moon Knight instead of those being two separate ones. I like in the new run of the comics, Mr. Knight is essentially just a guy who sits in an office and waits for people to come ask him for help. And then when he goes out and does like provides help for them, whether it's like fighting vampires or something, then he dresses in a suit. So I don't mind that particularly, but yeah, I'm enjoying it overall so far. Even being a pretty hardcore fan, I think they're doing them justice overall. But yeah, the whole multiple personality thing, that will be interesting to see that extent, and I think it kind of makes for a funny. It could be a fun slash funny interaction when they introduce him to talking with other like MCU characters that we already know of. Like imagining this guy interact with like Doctor Strange, or I think he interacts with Spider-Man quite a bit in the comics, a lot of the older ones. So I don't know if he'll ever do that, but
Or like an interaction with. I'm sorry to interrupt, Dylan. Like an interaction with Bruce Banner because they're like, oh yeah, you got someone possessing you, like because like Mark Ruffalo and Stephen Grant, like if they were to interact, they're both kind of like dopey, like that, and then like
Right.
obviously Mark Ruffalo has Hulk, and then Steve has
It'd
Conchu.
be-
It's like, oh okay.
It'd be interesting to see if it turns into anything with the Invaders, seeing as like they've already kind of hinted at Black Knight, and with him at least right now being in London, maybe it's the start of that team over there.
I've been hearing rumblings of like the MCU setting up the Midnight Suns, which is more like
Right.
supernatural stuff of like Marvel and all that, like with Dracula,
Blade and Ghost Rider.
oh yeah, you mentioned Black Knight, Gabe. That there could be a connection there. Because you guys
Moon Knight,
you
Black
guys
Knight,
all
and
saw
that.
you guys all saw Eternals, right? Yeah, that could be cool to see.
Okay, real quick. I watched the Eternals on a whim the other day. I was bored and had nothing to watch, and I was like, fuck it. I got Disney Plus. That movie was fucking awesome. Everyone
that's what I
dogged
was-
on that movie. I was like, this movie is great. Maybe it's because I had zero expectations that I had fun, but I didn't hate it. And I was stoked at the end when Black Knight came out. I was like,
So,
or he
so
didn't
when
come out, but
So when Eternals came out, I couldn't wait for Dylan or anybody. I was like, I'm going now. It's a new Marvel movie. I gotta go there. Like, I'm not waiting. I go there and I called Dylan. I was like, dude, that movie. Like, it was like midnight. I was like, dude, that movie bangs. Like, that was a good ass movie. And then we all go, like, me, him, and some other friends go. They're like, yeah, the movie is subpar. I was like, I mean, later down the road, and after I had a longer time to digest it, it wasn't as great as I like initially thought. But I
Yeah.
still enjoyed the shit out of it. And they're just putting me on
Yeah.
blast for it. They're like, oh, it's the greatest Marvel movie ever.
I feel like the monsters in that movie were a little uninspired. They were kind of very meh. But like the overarching story was really good. I really, really enjoyed it. I felt like they didn't even need the bad guys in that movie. The alien, I forgot what they're called.
The Deviants.
The
Right,
deviants. They could have just stuck to like that main story, and it probably would have still made sense.
Yeah, but I feel like with the Eternals and Deviants, they kind of go hand in hand with each other. So I mean, to not have them in there for an origin story,
Yeah, that's
would be kind of hard. But I do agree with you how they set up this one guy like, oh, he's absorbed the powers, he's
Right.
juiced now, and then he just gets
Yeah.
boobed on at the
It's
end. And I'm like,
murked
okay.
immediately. I was
Yeah,
like,
I'm like,
okay.
okay. So it's like I definitely I know where you're coming from. I agree, but at the same time, it's hard to tell an Eternal story without the deviants.
And we gotta defend ourselves, my buddies and I, who were making fun of Gabe about that, because Gabe has this terrible habit of going to an MCU movie and coming out of it and being like, that was the best fucking movie I've ever seen. Best MCU movie. That's top 3 every time. And then like a week goes by, he's like,
Captain
okay.
Marvel, bro.
He's like, okay, it wasn't top 3. No, he actually didn't say that about Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel is like the least rewatchable MC movie, and this is just, I don't know, man. I watched that movie and I was like, that movie is very, very mid. Like it was, I don't know, but so after I told Dylan, I was like, all right, so I was obviously overhyped on Eternals, but I still really liked the movie. They did try to throw a lot into a movie. They introduced 10 new characters. So it's like totally understandable. I still thought it was a good movie, but not as good as the initial.
It's cool how they like made them like they've always been there, like that, having these supernatural powers and things have always been there, and it's not just an Earth thing, like rising above and becoming a hero and stuff like that. And even the Kirby stuff, like, I mean, I had the whole series and it's pretty slow. So, I mean, there's not really too much for them to pull out of from there, because there's only been so many series after that as well.
Yeah. The one thing that I like about the Eternals is that I was worried about is Dean's seen me rant about this before. You have too, Sean. I think Gabe's heard me rant about this, but I hate when studios undo themselves, when they like take away from original material in order to try and push their own story.
Oh, you mean
Star
Disney
Wars?
Star Wars?
Yeah, Star Wars is really bad with that. And the like little jabs that they had in WandaVision about Scarlet Witch could have just taken out Thanos at any point she wanted to. Mm-hmm. Shit drives me bonkers. It's like, okay, well, what was the fucking problem then with everything? Like, if that was true.
I think part of that also comes from like the Loki series, where they talk about the TVA, where Loki goes, why didn't the Avengers get in trouble for doing what they did going back? And they're like, well, they had to rise to the occasion and become something greater than themselves. But that also lends to like your example of like having to undo themselves.
Well, I mean, that to me, like, that's fixing something that they fucked up on or they lost, essentially. And it really wasn't even they didn't even fuck up. Like, we're still seeing implications of that. Like, I like that we're seeing things done by Thanos still in like a lot of material that they're putting out. Mm-hmm. And I was worried with Eternals, going back to that they are going to undo a lot of that. And that's one of the other things I like about Moon Knight, to kind of bring it back to that, is that it's a new character. They can do new things with it. He doesn't have to
rewrite history.
Yeah, he doesn't have to fit in with someone. He can be his own thing and just leave it at that. And that's kind of I was worried Eternals was going to go back on a lot of things that the Avengers did, or their powers and stuff, but they really didn't. They did them fine, I thought, overall. But does anyone have any last thoughts here before we wrap up?
Do you have any expectations as to where he might fit in after Doctor Strange, or even if he makes an appearance somehow in Doctor Strange at the end of his series?
Think about that. Yeah, I didn't even think about him making an appearance in Doctor Strange. I immediately think of Blade, Black Knight. I think if him and Black Knight team up together or fight or something,
that's badass. That's the next Iron Man and Steve Rogers.
That's a cool contrast too, though. Like, just even color speaking. But like Black Knight, Blade, we'll see what they do with Daredevil and Punisher.
Right.
Just a bunch of those street level guys. I think that's where they'll expand Moon Knight on, depending on how powerful he is. Who knows if we'll see him in some of the Avengers stuff, even though Feige said Avengers
No
are
more
pretty
Avengers,
much done.
right?
Yeah,
Yep.
but yeah, I think that's where we'll see him. I hope it's not a one and done type thing. Not that I necessarily want like a new season, but if even they do like a movie to wrap up the character, I don't care. I just hope that it's just not one little season of this new character and then we never
Like
see him
he's
again, or he
just-
never gets his own shit again.
Like he's just out there doing his thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't. I would like him to eventually like have his own movie, or if they do a second series, to make sure they wrap him up fine. That's what I always say about TV series, is you got to wrap it up. There's so many fucking shows out there that are amazing, and like I said, they trip over the finale and don't know how to close up storylines.
And Game of Thrones.
Yeah, right.
Oh my gosh, dude! Don't even get me started on that. If they would have fleshed that out by like 2 more episodes, I feel like that finale would have been way better. Because they're like, okay, we killed the White Walkers. 2 seconds later, okay, we're in King's Landing now. It's like, what? What?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's kind of where I see Moon Knight overall, but what about you guys? Any of you guys got some last thoughts here?
Nope.
I have zero expectations because, again, I don't know anything about the character. So even if they technically fuck it up, like for like say Dylan, I'm not really gonna know if it's bad or not. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I don't know the character, so I'm excited to see where it goes because I have no expectations of where it could go. So I guess
Yeah,
if I think it's bad, then it might actually just be fucking terrible. So I guess
right.
that
Yeah, I
remains
don't
to be seen.
I don't think that like it'll affect me. Like I don't need it or want it necessarily to follow along the comics, so I'm totally fine with them doing their own thing. I'm along for the ride. I like it so far. The villain, we'll see how that turns out, how Marvel will kind of work with that, but I had one other point I wanted to mention about it, but yeah, I'm excited. The one thing we haven't even mentioned is how great the acting seems to be overall in the show. I think you kind of mentioned it at the beginning, Dean, but yeah, he does a great job portraying the different characters, like some of the physical things he's doing. Trying like when he's subconsciously trying to keep the Scarab away from Hawk's character, and then even of course Ethan Hawke can act. We all know that. Overall, it just seems well done on that end of things, which is good. I feel like you have, for someone to portray a character like Moon Knight, you have to make sure that they can be flexible. And
Yeah, because when he's Mark, he's very
confident.
confident. Yeah, and then when he's Steven, he's very like timid. Like his body language completely changes.
Yes.
I think that's pretty.
Like
pretty
posture.
Christopher Reeve.
Yeah. Wait,
Yeah.
what?
Christopher Reeve when he played Clark Kent, and then when he played Superman.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought you were making a bad
Yeah, I
joke.
was like, bro, too soon.
No, he
All
did
right.
an excellent job of that.
Well, to wrap things up here, we, for the most part, we're optimistic. I don't know. We'll probably do this again, but I don't think we'll do it every week. I think we'll either do every 2 episodes or 3, or maybe just from here, wait for the rest of it to drop and then do one. Soul Nightmare said, I hope we get a Psycho Colonel Sanders figure with an Oscar head sculpt. That'd be awesome. But yeah, all right. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you guys for joining this special episode of Small Talk, the show where we talk about absolutely nothing important at all. Good night, everyone.